All right, we're live.
All right.
So just to go over the prompt one more time, it's please discuss your thoughts on the organizational culture, what types of cultures you've experienced in the workplace, whether it's positive, negative, engaging, or entertaining. And if you believe that leaders are able to shape culture, and then we're all supposed to watch the videos and whatnot, but let's go from there.
Well, I'll start by saying I think that the organizational culture of anywhere that you work is like directly correlated to employee enjoyment of whether they actually do like going to work every day or if they don't. And I think the leader has a lot to do with that because they're the ones that are essentially making the rules. And if they're very strict on things like coercive power and stuff and like reprimanding you for every little thing, you're just going to be burned out, as opposed to if it's somewhere where they have like more of a startup culture. I mean, I have a lot of friends at workplaces that seem pretty cool, barely even seems like they're going to work every day. And I think that'd be a cool work culture to work in.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing regarding power. They have that like legitimate power to set the rules and set the vibe. And I was thinking that the culture is a direct reflection of leaders, actually. Like what Tony was saying in the Zappos video, I thought it was interesting that he said that he went and became an entrepreneur because he wanted to rebel against his parents becoming, his parents' wishes for him to be a doctor. He rebelled against in that sense, but he's also like rebelling against social norms and the way that he is running his company.
I just want to go back to something that James actually said. He was talking about like people getting reprimanded for everything. And I think that in some jobs it's really important. Like mistakes can't happen like because it can be life or death, or it can be there's just like flaws in that. But I think a good leader will be able to, instead of like reprimand people, kind of guide them in how they need to do it and like pointing out like, hey, you messed this up, like this is how we can fix it. So I think that leaders are a big part of that. And I think I 100% agree that I think leaders can have all the power in the world to shape the culture. I mean, so working for Starbucks, like they're given every opportunity to be great. Like we have every opportunity to be a really cool, awesome culture. And having a bad leader, like it's kind of something that I'm going through right now. People don't want to come to work, and like they have every opportunity. Starbucks changed their policy on the way we're allowed to dress and express yourself, and you can have your tattoos show, you can have piercings, like you can have colored hair, and they give Starbucks, higher up Starbucks leaders give such a good framework for that, and then you can like have a leader that kind of ruins it for you. So I think leaders are absolutely able to shape that culture in like smaller parts of businesses that give the opportunity even.
Mm-hmm.
I find the good leaders are more like coaches, like what you were saying. A good leader can like pick and choose when to reprimand and kind of lead you. I think the book called it like leading a trail in the last chapter. It's pretty sure it was a test question actually. But like, yeah, I mean, I think just overall to set the culture, you kind of need to pick and choose those things that are big that like someone needs to reprimand. And those things like, all right, that's a mistake. They obviously didn't mean to do it. No one's dead. Let's slide for the sake of morale.
I think that not only, I think referent power is one of the big ones for leadership, as well as, you know, having people want to come to work. Just because, you know, you can have someone who is great with people and everything, but they don't believe in what the company believes in. And I think that still can really, you know, destroy a culture within work. So not only being a good leader, but also just, you know, kind of believing in the message of the company. I think that's important as well.
So what I thought was interesting about the Zappos videos, I think this had to have been my other class that I read this in, but they compare and contrasted how Zappos, you know, says, hey, you as employees are empowered to, you know, make the right call, make sure customer service is 100%, be humble, be kind. And they contrasted it with, I think, Amazon's, which is where the customer is always right rather than the employee is always right. And like how those two cultures are so like different, and yet they get the same job done. Like their customers want to buy from them because it's such a unique like customer service experience. And I thought that was really cool how they, you know, created cultures that are vastly different from just your normal, you know, customer service, and how that's been successful for them, you know. And I mean, I think we've all worked for people who are like, you know, like as long as you can take care of it, make sure the customer's happy, like you deal with it. And that's always been my favorite thing. Like, that's fine. Let me find out from this person what they need and let me give it to them.
In the book, it mentions that's how Disney does their customer service too, and like more in line with what Zappos does, not Amazon. But I definitely think that like that's a really good point. Like Amazon and Zappos are so big and people want to buy from them. There's never just one right way to be a leader. And I think like that's kind of cool. Like I think it gives so many opportunity for people to do a great job, and like there's different ways to do it. And the book talks about just being able to adapt is a big challenge. And I think that like those companies can do it so differently because they're just adapting.
Reminds me of poor Blockbuster. That they just weren't adapting. When I was reading the chapter, I instantly thought of Blockbuster, and I was thinking of ways that they could have adapted, and sucks that they didn't, because I look forward to going to Blockbusters on Fridays, you know, pick out a movie. Our rest in peace, Blockbuster.
That's actually crazy that meme is like actually true. There are kids that don't know what that is. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm 25. Are you kidding me? You don't know what that is?
Those were the days.
Sorry, you can go.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna kind of bring it to a different point too, that the language that companies use also shapes culture. And so like the whole calling your employees partners in Starbucks' case is a big idea of like shaping that culture, calling people your guests, or instead of the customer, their guests. And I think that's something really cool. Like I think that it gets overlooked though. Like I think Starbucks partners feel like, oh, it's just like that's what we're called. I don't think all of them grasp that, and that's upsetting. Like I think that people don't understand like what that really means, but I just think it's a really cool small way to like shape culture. I think every little bit counts, and I think that's just kind of good.
When I worked for Starbucks, I did notice that the culture was pretty awesome. I mean, yeah, the leadership could have been better, but in general, I feel like the CEO, what's his name again? Mark Schultz?
Howard Schultz, but he actually stepped in. No, it's Kevin Johnson.
No way. Oh. Well, in general, I feel like Starbucks makes an awesome culture for the partners, where you do feel valued for the most part. And I was still working when they did the uniform switch. So that was really cool to experience.
What was your guys' original uniforms? I never noticed anything different.
It was black, or it was like supposed to be black slacks and khakis, and then white or black polos. And then they changed it so we can wear like just different shirts. We don't have to wear polos exactly. Our shirts don't have to be tucked in. We can wear denim. We can wear dark denim. We can still wear all the things that we wore before. We can wear hats. We can wear scarves. They changed it completely. They really wanted people to be able to express themselves a little bit more. They even changed, like we used to only be able to wear 2 earrings, and then they changed that. You can have a nose piercing. You can have your tattoos show. So they really changed a lot. It was a big switch, and like they really pride themselves on that. It's talked about a lot, actually.
Before, if I remember correctly, we couldn't even color our hair, right?
Yep, we're allowed to have like unnatural colored hair too, and that changed too.
Yeah.
What was that, James?
I said, I don't want to be a snitch or anything, but I don't think the one in San Francisco ever followed those rules.
Sometimes the farther away you get from Seattle, like the more lenient people were on rules. It was kind of weird. Like you would go to like East Coast or whatever, and you're like, what are they doing? Like this isn't okay.
Yeah. Talking about company culture, I actually took a trip up to Seattle yesterday, and I went to the Chick-fil-A, and I noticed that, you know, when I ordered, she didn't say "you're welcome" when I said "thank you," but she said my pleasure. And I was a little curious about that, so I like Googled it, and apparently, like, that's part of their like company thing. They use elevated language when talking to their customers, so they say things like "my pleasure" instead of "you're welcome." I just thought that was really weird and cool at the same time, because I was a little weirded out at first. I was like, "Thank you."
Like, okay.
I had a friend who actually worked at Chick-fil-A, and it was so ingrained in her that, like, even, like, outside of it, she'd say my pleasure. And it's like, what are you doing? So weird.
But that could also be pretty tedious to the culture, I feel like. Because imagine if you actually had a manager that stood over your shoulder and like corrected you for saying "you're welcome" instead of "my pleasure" every day. Be like,
Oh, I'm sure they exist.
I gotta go to work and put up with this guy.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's kind of rough though, because Starbucks, when someone says thank you, we're supposed to respond by also saying thank you. We're not supposed to say the words "you're welcome." And as a like shift lead, I'm supposed to like hear that and have a conversation with someone. And I find it's really hard. Like I think like saying "you're welcome" is a big part of like the way that like people are raised. And like I struggle with it. I was raised to say "you're welcome." So I just kind of like, if I hear it, what I am comfortable doing is like, if you say "you're welcome," you also have to say "thank you" again. Like, it's tedious and like it's stupid, but like if I don't do that, like I get reprimanded. And like I don't really think that's fair, but I understand it. Like, we want to have that customer service and we're supposed to be customer service oriented. And it makes it really hard to be a leader when something that doesn't sound bad, like it shouldn't be a big deal, it shouldn't be a problem to say "you're welcome," but it becomes a problem. Like, I'm supposed to coach on that, and it always hurts my heart a little bit. I'm like, I don't want to.
Is that a new thing?
No, it's actually always been a rule. I just think that like my store is pretty close to Seattle, so like we could have people from corporate in there like randomly, or the SSC, and so rules in my district have always been very, very strict.
Okay, because that was never a thing. I mean, 5 years, I've only, you know, not been with the company for a couple months, so that's just weird because that's not a thing here.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's in training. It's in the training. It's also, it's a few places like in our like stuff, and like, but our district is so strict on those kind of rules. I mean, but it pays off. Here's the thing, like my store, we actually won a like $500 party because we were #1 in our area, not just our district, but our area, for like the highest reviews and like highest satisfaction of customers. We won a thing on that because we are so strict on it, which is kind of weird. Like, it seems so small and so tedious as someone like leading someone, as being their shift lead, but to see it pay off, it's just like, okay, that's kind of interesting.
Wait, is shift lead a manager, or is that another position that you guys have?
It's part of your management team. So we have a store manager. Sometimes we have an assistant manager, and then there's the shift supervisors. It's all management team. So,
well, I think that's interesting. Like, the culture in your district was so like different than like the culture that I had. I mean, as an ASM, I never had an issue with people saying, you know, "you're welcome." Like, I didn't know that was a thing, and that's not pushed here. And we're in the same state. So I think it's interesting how those two cultures are different, even though we're in like the same geographical area for the same company, you know?
Yep. And I think that could also just be like the leadership that you had. Like, I think it's something that's so engraved into my leaders. It's something that they push down. And I think that's a big thing too. Like, leaders definitely like always can pick and choose what they want to be strong and like put their foot down on. And it's just kind of interesting how it changes.
Absolutely.
Would you say that your team is happy, and as a result of that, customers are happy, like as you see with Zappos?
We have some really cool customers. Like, I think that, I don't know if we got lucky, but generally I kind of play the middleman between my manager and my baristas. And so it's perfect. Like, me being a shift is perfect in the store because I can totally see the whole, these are the rules, this is exactly how we can follow. But I'm also able to rationalize, be like, you're not doing anything wrong, but here, let's talk about how we can change this to make it fit into the actual like dead set rules. My baristas, I always ask them to. I'm like, let me know how I can do better as your shift. Like, I'm very open and I have that relationship with all of my baristas. I've worked really hard for that relationship. So on my shifts, at least I know that they're very happy. And we have a really cool, like, I'm only a cafe store, so our customer connection is top notch for that anyway.
That makes sense.
But we, we do our cookie tastings and coffee tastings and pastry tastings with customers in our lobby, and because we've created that culture for them. How are we doing on time?
15. I could never chime in. It was never a right moment. But any last words? We got like 3 minutes. Nope. I think we're good.
I think we're good.
I'm going to stop broadcast.